Okay, should we start now?
Yep.
Since it is 5:03, so good evening, everybody. I'm Scott Secchi. I'm the state representative for District 26, which includes Kakaako, and Senator Sharon Moriwaki, who's the state senator for the Kakaako district, is also here. I want to just welcome everybody to our town hall. I'll just be very brief. So I wanted to just let everybody know that Senator Moriwaki and I do receive comments from residents, and whenever we receive a lot of questions about a certain topic, we organize a town hall meeting like this one so that we can kind of go have a deep dive into that topic area. And Kakaako development has been one of the questions or issues that has been raised by many residents in the area. So we wanted to have this town hall tonight. This is actually kind of like a continuation of our prior town hall meeting, which featured Kamehameha schools. Tonight we are featuring Howard Hughes, and I will turn it over to Senator Moriwaki to make the introductions.
Okay,
Senator.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, as Speaker said, we have been very concerned about Kakaako and for a long time, and we've been and Kakaako is under the Hawaii Community Development Authority, so it is different than other county communities, and so we look to the HCDA, and we're pleased that Deepak Nupani is with us, the executive director, who will tell us a little bit, at least for context, what HCDA oversees, the zoning, and what the plans and rules are for how we develop. And it really was to be a community that was mixed use, mixed income, and really looking at, from my perspective, having affordable housing and a mixture for our community and having it a good and sustainable community. And last time we heard from Kamehameha schools, as Speaker Saiki said. So tonight we also welcome Kailani Sodaro, the Vice President for Howard Hughes' Development and Planning. What is it, division? So that we thank both Deepak and Kailani. What we'll do is have Deepak give us a little context of HCDA, and also they're coming up plans for amending the rules and the plan, which I think the last time it was changed was in 2011. So Deepak can cover some of that, and then turn it over to Kailani to give us updates of what Howard Hughes is planning for the future. So, so Deepak, you want to start off and tell us a little bit of the plans for our Kakaako. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. And then before we start, do you want to explain the chat procedure for questions?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So because we have a number of people and coming on, we're going to ask you to put your questions in the chat box, and then we will read them off when it comes to the Q&A. We want to spend a lot of time with Q&A, and both for Deepak and for Kailani. So just add your questions as you hear them, and then we will come back to those questions after the presentations. Okay, so Deepak, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Moriwaki and Speaker Saiki, for this another opportunity to share the Kakaako information. I have a very short, quick PowerPoint that I used last time. Let me bring it up, and I'll just highlight a few things. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So quickly go by the, I'm not going to read through it. The vision that was created by the legislature back in the early or mid 70s, and what Kakaako, for Kakaako. So just put in there, and I have a link in the bottom if you are interested. And I believe I shared the PowerPoint at the speaker's office last time. It's probably still available there. You can go there and then just click on those things. Then with that specific, hold on to Kakaako and the vision that was created by the legislature for Kakaako. Again, not going to read through it. Link is there. You can just go and look at the statute yourself. Just to give you a sense of what we are talking about, what area. So we call Kakaako Mauka and Makai, Mauka being Mauka of Alamona Boulevard and Makai being Makai of Alamona Boulevard. So this is the boundary of the district: Punch Bowl, Pico Street, King Street on the Mauka side, and basically the ocean and the Cavallo Beach and Harbor on the Makai side. And major landowners, Kamehameha School and Victoria Ward in the color there. The original vision that was created for the district was mixed use, mixed income community. And the vision was that the development will be linked by a pedestrian bridge at 45 feet height, create a community recreation deck in every development at 45, and it would be available to the public and the residents to use. And for good reasons, and that being, the fragmentation of land ownership and all of that, and the reluctance from developers and homeowners to share their podium recreation area with everyone. The development never happened that way. And I have some numbers, it's available on our website. You can take a look. Won't go through that. The original vision was for 47,500 people there. I think we are maybe at about 16,000 residents within the district right now, based on 2020 census. Then in 2011, as Senator mentioned earlier, HCDA went through rule amendment because the original vision of podium and pedestrian connection at 45 feet never happened. So I like to call it, we brought it down to ground. So focus on the streets, sidewalks, make it pedestrian friendly, have a liner building, have a combination of, retail, rental, housing at, and for sale housing at various price points and all. This is a good example. That picture that I have is a development called Kehau Place and Kehau Lane. Kehau Place is a residential development for sale. We have, I believe, 72 units in that project. And the for sale side, that's reserve housing, reserved for income of 140% of AMI. For 2021 income, that's a little bit over $140,000 for a family of four. And the rest is rental housing. Example, again, same, the growth principles and smart growth and all of that. And this is Kamehameha portion of the district. Let me go over to Howard Hughes portion because we are going to focus on that. Again, similar development. The master plan, Ward neighborhood master plan proposes 4,300 residential out of which 20% or 860 are supposed to be reserve housing, affordable housing. There are 2,136 units already built, of which 525 are affordable, and there are more in the way. And currently, and some of you or all of you may have received, if you are in the district, a flyer from HCDA. We are looking at amending the rules again for two reasons. One, it's been 10 years. There are some housekeeping measures that we needed to implement. We are looking at that. And the major focus that we are looking at is that, I don't know if everyone saw the article that came out on Civil Beat last week, I believe, and they made an argument that there isn't enough affordable housing in Kakaako. I would like to say that there is affordable housing in Kakaako, but I do agree that there isn't enough. I think we need more. And so we are looking at, how do we provide incentive in our rules so that we can, developers and landowners can build more affordable housing in Kakaako. So that's going to be one of the major focus of the rule amendment. I will quickly go and share, oops, there's one particular page that I wanted to share before I hand it over to Howard. Yeah, this one. This is a glance, Kakaako at a glance, where we are at. And the map on the right-hand side with all the numbers shows you what the projects have been built and what type of projects they are, like, reserve housing, affordable housing, rental, and all of that. And the panel on the left-hand side gives you the most current statistics. There's been, like I said, population of 16,000 plus, 2020 census. In terms of development, we are at, 12,500 plus total units, out of which, again, I go back again, 4,249 units. That's like 33%. A third of what is built is affordable to the family with an income of, 140,000 and below. 1,380 of it is rental, and that those rental units are affordable to a family of making, 30 to 60% of AMI. 30% of AMI is like $23,000 for Honolulu. 60% would be like maybe mid-50s. So we do have affordable housing, but at the same time, I do agree that we need more. And I think we need to have this incentive provided so that we can build more. And I'm glad to say that there are some projects coming to us that are proposing 50% plus one unit as affordable unit in the project. And I think those projects are welcome. And I think that's the direction that the board wants to move. In terms of public facilities, we have, 56 acres of public park, more to come thanks to some of the Howard Hughes development. They have obligation to build more park. With that, I will pause. And if there are any questions, I can address questions or hand it over to Kilohanna.
Should we take that question right now about affordability? Oh, can you hear?
Yeah.
There's a question.
Yeah.
Since it ties into DPAC's.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can you help ensure that affordability is maintained? This person bought a unit at Kilohanna and has experienced extreme increase in fees, and our reserve unit is no longer affordable. Additionally, we were given a single parking space with a family in a 3-bedroom unit in which it is so small we can't even open our doors.
Deepa.
Let me address the parking first. And if it is a 3-bedroom unit, then I believe under Chapter 22, which was what Kilohanna is permitted under, there's a requirement of how many parking to provide based on the square footage. So off the top of my head, I would think that that would be at least 2 parking stalls. So I'm not sure why it's just 1. On the maintenance fee, included as part of the in pricing of the unit or the total housing cost. So we do depend on information provided by the developer, and developer typically hires a management company, and the management company prepares a reserve study for the project, and they, they are the experts, the management company, and we go by that number. Now, I do understand that over time or even not over time, because of many, many different reasons, the maintenance fee can go up, will go up. And so that's a challenge. And we are looking at, the board has formed a permitted interaction group to look at that, looking at example that HHFDC is using and have been using for their projects. Just to go into a little bit of more detail, HCDA uses by formula, our rule says that 33% or 1/3 of the gross income of a household can go towards housing costs. And that housing cost includes your mortgage, which is principal and interest payment. Then it's a maintenance fee. Then we require, the formula requires to use only 10% down payment as in the calculation. So there's a requirement to include mortgage insurance premium in that 33%, and property taxes. What HHFBC does is that it allows for 38% of the total income, gross income, to go into housing costs. So maybe we're looking at that balance. So that way, so to speak, taking pressure off the developer on trying to minimize that maintenance fee so that they can balance between what money can go towards paying the mortgage and then what money can go towards paying the rest of the thing. But that's it, it's a challenge. I mean, I know of Kilohanna. I cannot go into a lot more detail because of the lawsuit and all of that. So I hope I provided enough information.
So Deepak, just in terms of that, because the question is also, how is affordability maintained, say if they purchase versus rentals? But if that is so, does HCDA have any jurisdiction over monitoring any of this? Or what is the, once a person buys, is HCDA hands off, or do you still, because of affordability and terms, that HCD still is in the play?
It is in the play, Senator. I mean, it's, there is a minimum, we call it the buyback requirement. So between 2 to 10 years, it's still regulated, as we call it. So we monitor that. We qualify the household out front on income and all. But when it comes to the maintenance and operations of the building, we have no control. I mean, that maintenance and operations of the building is, is the responsibility of the AOAO. And we as a government agency, we don't have the statutory authority right now to get involved in any of that. And, my thinking would be that as a government agency, it's probably not prudent to get into managing a privately owned building and get involved in the day-to-day operations of a privately owned building.
Okay, I guess the other thing is then you could sell low and have really high maintenance fees. So I think that's, I don't know how, not that we as government would get involved in managing, but some way in terms of the spirit of affordability when you buy.
Yeah. Right. Kaulani could probably address some of it from Howard Hughes' perspective, but from HCDA perspective, because of the, what has happened with Kilohanna, I did do some research to look at various buildings in Kakaako as well as outside of Kakaako, some pretty old building. I lived in a high-rise building, older building on University Avenue. It was built in 1970, so it's already 50 years old. It's historic by now, and
yeah.
Maybe we can segue.
Okay.
So. Yeah, maybe we can segue to Howard Hughes. But the Deepak, the comment was that the additional comment that we just received through chat was that the management companies are not doing realistic reserve studies. So we should just keep that in mind. But this is a good segue to Howard Hughes. So Senator, you want to do the intro?
Okay, so Kailani Sodaro, thank you for joining us. You have a PowerPoint or you want to do some introductory remarks of what you're doing in planning and development?
Thank you so much. If everyone wants to let me know if it worked, my share screen.
You can see it fine, thank you.
Okay, volume's good too. Terrific, thank you so much. Aloha, thank you Senator Moriwaki and Speaker Saiki for the invitation and for hosting Good evening, everyone. My name is Kilohanna Sadaro, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Planning and Development here at Ward Village. And I also recently joined the Ward Village team in May of this year. So I'll be walking us through some current community highlights, as well as upcoming park and streetscape improvements and an overview of our current construction projects. Like everyone, we adopted our community activations this year, continue to support our local businesses and community health efforts, in addition to our weekly farmers market that many of you know. Also this summer, Victoria Ward Park, we hosted an emerging artist series, two of whom artists got picked up at Aloha festivals, if anyone saw the airing of them. And we also hosted our first Founders Day celebration by partnering with Trees for Honolulu and Foster and Ho'omaluhia Botanical Gardens to celebrate Victoria Ward's birthday. We also installed a new free little diverse library designed by Jana Lamb at the park. And in the upper left-hand corner, I wanted to offer everyone a quick summary of our current tenant mix of small and medium businesses and across the types. Our community activations and events are one of the many ways that we continue to support our commercial, light industrial, and office space tenants as well, which from a square footage standpoint continues to remain significant. More recently, our community gatherings featured Halloween Pumpkin Patch, where we partnered with Alun Farms to give away pumpkins and create, fun, keiki-friendly events during our Saturday farmers market. We're getting ready for another one, Thanks for Giving Saturday next weekend. We also just finished a retail promotion partnering with Iolani Palace and Bishop Museum to support their admissions while also supporting our Ward Village restaurants and retailers. And in December, we have our annual drive for Toys for Tots, and we'll be participating in the 25th year of Catholic Charities of Hawaii's Senior Giving Tree, and doing 2 pop-up events with American Heart Association to do bystander CPR training at South Shore Market. Our most recent residential offering opened in October, A'ali'i, with residents moving in. Specifically, we did welcome home 150 Kama'aina families as part of HCDA's reserved housing program at A'ali'i. All in, A'ali'i has 751 homes, studio, 1 and 2 bedrooms. The area median income range for the reserved housing here at A'ali'i was 100 to 140% of the AMI. And from a pricing range, that would be $280,000 to $480,000. A'ali'i is one of our mixed use projects. It does have retail and restaurants on the street level and is adjacent to Victoria Ward Park. With the opening and coinciding with A'ali'i and our Ko'ula milestone recently, Ward Village is vested in making a meaningful difference in cultivating community partnerships through our philanthropic giving, volunteering, and our cultural engagements. And so the list here, and we did get some questions in chat about our houseless population, and thank you for those. We donated over $225,000 to critical mission work for local nonprofits. Each of the organizations you see here received a minimum of $25,000. And this is enabled by our partnership with Hawaii Community Foundation in connecting our development milestones with our philanthropic initiatives. And here, just additional collection of recent community partners through this year and some staff volunteer efforts. Over the last decade, Ward Village has given $3.7 million and partnered with over 180 community local nonprofits. Currently, we are working on delivering Ulana, Ward Village. This would be Ward Village's 3rd reserved housing residential offering. It will bring 697 additional reserved homes for only Kama'aina families. We'll have studios through 3 bedrooms. Here, the AMI or the area median income will be 120% blended, which on a price range basis is starting at $270,000 to $550,000. The completion of Ulana will bring all of Ward Village's reserved housing home count to over 1,200 Kama'aina families. Fronting additional renderings, we're excited to share these. You know, Ulana will have Kuliaio Park, which is our next public park that Ward Village will be developing for the broader community. We also will have a new Pohukaina Street connection with Owahi Street. In short, the Owahi Street corner that we all know at Ward Avenue will be moving Mauka. We'll have retail and commercial streetscape, as well as light industrial space at Ulana of approximately 35,000 feet integrated into the parking structure off of Pohukaina. And just this month, we opened the Ulana Sales Gallery at the IBM building. We welcome everyone. We are doing virtual tours or in-person sales pickup packets. Transitioning to some of our current construction projects, many of you have seen this work already occurring. It's the Board of Water Supply water main upgrade that's occurring on Queen Street, running from Cook to Cummins. The current water line that's in there, it's over 60 years old, it's 6 inches, and it's being driven as a fire and life safety project by Board of Water Supply. There are currently no fire hydrants in this section of Queen Street, and that's going to be one of the outcomes to do the property protection now in that area. There's some limited asphalt and striping restoration associated with this project. We started 2 months ago in September, and we anticipate needing to go through July of next year. Moving to our streetscapes and parks, this is an overview of all the planned public open spaces and parks that we are now beginning improvements. Across the master plan, in total, Ward Village will have about 8 acres of public open space and parks, including the new plaza sidewalks and dedicated bike lanes that are coming to Owahi Street. And I'm going to spend a couple minutes highlighting our Victoria Ward Park and Owahi Street improvements. So after years of conversations with residents and area cultural specialists, we're excited to be at this point in time. This slide shows the landscaping and programming elements and the details of both the Mauka and Makai Park areas, which combined are over 3.5 acres. There will be water features both in the Makai and the Mauka sections. We will have more dedicated keiki play areas and play equipment. For those of you who are familiar with Koluwalu Park, it's always busy. And the community has expressed the desire for more playground equipment, so we'll be doing that. And you'll notice in the Makai Park, there's a dedicated bike pathway that will come up through the park and connect to Department of Transportation's elevated walkway, connecting over to Kewalo Harbor and then eventually to Ala Moana Park. A few additional renderings in the upper left of view Makai, looking over the Mauka and Makai section of the park. On the lower right, a better inset of what that community play area and event lawn will be. And then Ko'ula's to your left, you'll see the retail fronting there. And Ko'ula will also have a second floor restaurant in addition to the street level. And then the pictures of the kids on the playground equipment, that's actually the equipment that we will be installing. Moving to Owahi Street, we refer to this as phase 1. Early next year, these improvements will start at the Ward Entertainment Center or the movie theater block. And these are all pedestrian and streetscape improvements, and they will include the narrowing of Owahi Street from what we all know today as 2 traffic lanes in each direction being reduced to 1 traffic lane in each direction with dedicated bike lanes in those directions. I'm told, you know, like Senator Moriwaki's commented on her visits, the large canopy trees make a really big difference. There's no shade now, so we're looking forward to bringing shade and a lot of heat relief for pedestrians. You'll also see deeper planter setbacks from the street, widened sidewalks. This will allow for more active recreation, additional outdoor seating, and really child safer sidewalks, since you won't have to walk with your kid or grandchildren right up against the cars at the curb. Here's a rendering of what the crosswalk will look like between the Mauka and Makai Victoria Ward Park. It will start in 2023 through 2024 on the Makai. Then we'll move over to the Mauka and complete that part 2024 to 2025. The last rendering I have here for Owahi Street. This is the new corner of Owahi Street and Ward Avenue. So the building to your left is the Park Ward Village. You'll see that it has, more retail and commercial activation on the street side. And pulling it all together, this graphic shows the planned schedule for completing the current slate of residential offerings, park and open spaces from now until 2025. You follow my mouse, in greens, we'll be focusing early next year on all of the Owahi phase 1 and 2 improvements through 2024. Ko'ula will open next fall in 2022. That will be followed with Victoria Place in 2024, bringing with it the completion of the Makai Park. And then you'll see the Park Ward Village through 2025. And with the completion of that will come the Mauka Park. And then you also will know Ulana through 2025. And with Ulana's opening, Kala'i'o Kukuli'ai'eo will open as well. I did want to pause real briefly here to also introduce Ward Village's next project to everyone. If we kind of looked here to the left on the map on the corner of Ward Avenue and Ala Moana Boulevard, this will become Kalai Ward Village. We are currently planning and engaging with HCDA staff for a planned development permit application. And just a few quick highlights. While Ward Village did have a previously approved development permit for this block, we redesigned it and it resulted in the Makai Park becoming 70% larger than we had initially planned. Kalai Ward Village will have a 45-foot podium height, and we are not seeking any modifications from HCDA with this project. It is, estimated to have 330 homes. And we will continue to integrate streetscape activations, pedestrian enhancements that incorporate public art, additional landscaping elements, and wrapping Ward Avenue and Ala Moana Boulevard as well. So, as we proceed with what I've shared this evening, Ward Village is guided by our commitment to sustainable and responsible redevelopment. Further, our corporate ESG initiatives are woven into our business practice, as well as all of our projects. It's exciting to share that actually this month, Ward Village was featured in the World Green Building Council's annual report as a case study, highlighting the importance of sustainable and climate-aware design best practices. Ward Village is a LEED Neighborhood Development Platinum Certified Master Plan community. All in, we have 6 LEED certified projects at various levels. Lastly, I encourage everyone to follow us. Thank you to Craig Nakamoto, the Communications Director, HCDA. We are in the Facebook feed of HCDA's, and also I'll place my email in the chat, but if you email me directly, I can also add you to our monthly e-newsletters, which always has the latest information on our project updates. And here's my email as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
There's a chat question.
Yeah, we have questions. I just wanted you to, Kailani, what was that last project, the last one that you mentioned? What is that? There's a name for that project? Is that the ward?
Kalai, K-A-L-A-E, Kalai Ward Village. Yes, Senator.
That's the one with 330 units?
And 30 homes, yep.
And then how many are affordable of that?
In this project, it's all market residential.
Okay, there's Kailani, there's a chat question for Ulana. Will the parking stall dimensions for Ulana be the same as Kilohanna?
I'm happy to research that and reply back. I'll put my email in the chat in the individual as anyone on the call can reach out to me with specific questions, I'm happy to do that.
I'm not sure if that means that the inference is that the stalls are too small or just are okay at Kilohanna.
I think they were complaining about the stalls being too small earlier.
Oh, yeah.
The size, how small. Yeah.
Okay. You want to take the next one, Senator?
Yeah. Okay. So there's also one. Park streets and sidewalk renderings look very nice. Is there a concern about the use of scooters, unit wheels on sidewalks? Is that something that would be enforced by the city, or are you having some safeguards in that? I think it's always been a problem in cities, you know, the multi-use on the sidewalks for pedestrians. So,
sure. I'm happy to answer on that multimodal question. Our conversations with DTS and my understanding from Deputy Director Noichi is that DTS is actively doing consultation with council to address and possibly propose solutions on an ordinance level for the city that does address the scooters, you know, and where those spaces are, as well as where permitted parking would be. And we are working with the city and specifically DTS to address solving for rideshare, because, you know, we all love rideshare. The issue is, though, sometimes they stop in the middle of the block. And so, you know, our understanding is that Kakaako, like Waikiki, will have some district level car rideshare pickup and drop off locations. And so we've proactively planned for that to be integrated into Ko'ula, where we're going to come and work with them from a district location so that, you know, people just don't hop out kind of like wherever their, you know, destination is, because it is a legitimate safety hazard. So
is Howard Hughes then working on the whole transportation system for the area, especially in terms of multimodal, whether you've got a bike lane and you've reduced the number of lanes for cars? So on those bike lanes, would that be a place for these scooters, or is that something that, you know, you folks can be looking at when you talk to DTS?
I'm happy to relay that feedback. Thank you. And the city would ultimately decide. We have a lot of integration with the Complete Streets program that DPP is administering. And, you know, many have already seen the bike lanes go in on Ward Avenue. And so the bike lanes, the dedicated bike lanes that we're placing on Owahi Street really are connecting into a broader, you know, Complete Streets plan of the cities.
Thank you.
We have another Ulana question. Sure. In Ulana, will the connection between the residential tower and parking structure be similar to Ko'olua? And how many connections will there be?
Well, we have a scaled model. I would encourage anyone interested in Ulana to come in. We have virtual tours that actually can walk everyone through that experience so that they can see firsthand what the connections and how many connections there are.
So these developments all look to be level and not raised. My understanding was that Howard Hughes was going to raise the street level, but the question here is, are you going to do that? What does that look like? What concerns about dealing with potential sea level rise and adjustments being made as you develop that Owahi Street?
Sure, the sidewalks on the Mauka side are elevated. It's a part of a grade change that is coming. I think the best physical reference, because we all know it, is what the sidewalk and plaza areas outside of South Shore Marketplace. Those have a slight elevation change. And so that's probably the best way for everyone to envision what the, you know, what the new improvements coming to Owahi Street would be. On the flood levels, you know, HCDA and the city actually through the climate change office, you know, we need to match the FEMA, the higher level established for any occupiable floors. And so that is something that we're guided by.
So you're raising the Makai side, but not the Mauka side, or is it both sides are being raised, or the street level staying the level that?
So Owahi Street runs from Queen to Ward essentially, and so the portion of the renderings that I shared this evening, those come with grade changes, but we have other blocks that have not been redeveloped yet. So those are still at grade. The crosswalk rendering will be at grade. So that would be, you'll see that, you know, in the rendering, it's an at grade crosswalk, which is what the city has required.
I'm sorry, going back to the prior question of the connections at Ulana, how many, do you know how many are planned?
From the parking structure across?
From the residential tower to the parking structure.
I'm happy to find out. They're not at level. They're at different levels because it's also a publicly accessible parking structure. So I guess it depends where you're going, because we also have light industrial tenants and we'll have commercial and retail. And then there's, you know, for security reasons, the residents have.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why it's kind of complicated. So
yeah,
we have really good virtual, actually UlanaWardVillage.com does have additional information that shows that best, depending what street you're on, how you're approaching the parking structure, where you're parking and where you're going. So okay. I would direct them to that. Thank you. Thank you.
I think this is focused on residential, the residential connection, not the industrial connection. Okay. But anyway, there's another question on Ohana Hale Marketplace. So what is the tentative plan for the marketplace? Is it being demolished for parking or being redeveloped?
Yes, so the old GEM site is where the Park Ward Village and the Mauka area of the Victoria Ward Park will be situated, yes.
And then isn't the rail station going to be in that area? If there is rail.
It does. The realignment of Halikuila does partially cut into the parking area that we associate with that, you know, with that site. So it runs, you know, on Halikuila by Longs, and then it comes up Mauka, and then it runs parallel to A'ali'i.
Okay. And then are the leases at the marketplace being terminated in 2022?
So we have a prime tenant, Ohana Marketplace. We don't hold individual lease arrangements with their subtenant. So is the question about the prime tenant speaker?
No, I guess the question is when will the leases end at the marketplace? When is the marketplace going to shut down, basically?
Yeah, that's an operator question, because we don't, we're not communicating to the subtenants of the prime tenant. We anticipate starting construction next year for the Park Ward Village there. And so our prime tenant, which is Ohana Marketplace, has been apprised of our development schedules, but I can't communicate for him on what he has shared.
What is the termination date for the prime tenant? For the Ohana Marketplace, what is their date?
It's in Q2 of next year.
Of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
So it goes down to the tenants.
The follow-up question to that was, is there a plan for the small businesses that are being displaced?
We have availed ourselves to Ohana Marketplace to assist the ownership group there with their subtenants. And so like with our other relocation projects, and obviously with the guidance and requirements of HCDA, we have Colliers International as our partner to help seek relocation opportunities within Kakaako, within the district, and really island-wide. You know, some of them have really launched and taken off and gone into other spaces within Kakaako and within Ward Village. And so we offer that tenant relocation assistance program continually.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the marketplace will likely shut down in April 2022?
That would be a question for the current operator when they decide a specific date. I can't speak on their behalf. I mean, they could shut down anytime between now and, you know, Q2. Right. So I feel comfortable answering for them.
Yeah, I guess at the latest, it would be Q2 would be, when's the Q2? Is it April 2022?
January, February, March, April. Yep, that's Q22.
Okay.
There's something in the question and answer box, and it has to do with Kilohanna, and I know that there's some controversy there, but if you can answer any of this part of it, this is an owner of a unit in Kilohanna. Their association hired a fire inspection company, said that there was a fire hazard in the building material, and that would the city and Howard Hughes have another fire inspection for that condo's safety. So I think that's the Howard Hughes development. So who's responsible for the city or Howard Hughes, or how does that work?
Well, I can't speak for the city or Honolulu Fire Department, but I did put my email in the chat, and the individual, I'm encouraged to just reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to find the right resource within Ward Village to return the question.
So here's another question.
Can I just follow up on that? So is it accurate that the AOAO hired a fire inspection company that found that there is a fire hazard in the building material at Kilohanna? I'm
not on the AOUO, so I don't know, Speaker.
Okay, but is Howard Hughes aware of anything like that? Kind of finding from a fire inspection company?
I'm personally not. I'm happy to help find this individual a resolution, but there's been no information presented on this call for me to react to.
Yeah, because the person also said that the resident also chatted that the board was informed that it would cost $7.2 million to remedy that fire issue.
Okay, I'm not on the board, so I wouldn't be privy to their AOUO board discussions.
So yes, they can contact you.
Absolutely, yeah, that's why I put my email in the chat. I'm happy to help the individual facilitate the right contact. Please do reach out to me.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Did I put it in the right chat box? Maybe it only went to the panelists. I chose.
Oh, okay.
Just so I make sure it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think people can see it in the chat box.
Okay. Well, there's two. So
Ilani.Sodaro@howardhughes.com.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Senator.
So there's one more question on the number of homeless in the neighborhood. Would Howard Hughes have any plan for addressing the homeless population?
So this is to HCDA and myself. So, I mean, yes, I live in Kaneohe. Houselessness is an issue statewide and definitely throughout Oahu. One of the groups that we have been leaning into for guidance in this area is Kapoi o Kakaako. And we have been working with them, and they are one of the more recent community groups. They were organized out of our community members who were living at the Discovery or the Children's Discovery, the Makai Park area. And we're in the process with them of funding a leadership program that they did an initial cohort with. And it's called Affordable Hawaii for Everyone. And in essence, it is modeled off of the Kauhale village model, which I think many of us on the call are familiar with. And so the premise of their program, and one that we think has much merit, is empowering these individuals with the capacity and the resources to solve these questions for themselves. And so we're really looking forward, and like with many, this is not just a Ward Village, solution or oriented answer. And so we're really excited that they trust us to enter into this space of solution with them. So thank you.
So is that just a discussion of what options are available, or is that building or finding housing for them? Or what exactly is the leadership program, or what you're planning to do, Howard Hughes is planning to do?
Well, we're just enabling them to come up with the solutions for themselves rather than us solving for them.
And
that's their model, to solve for themselves.
They say
go ahead.
So if they say they want X, Y, or Z, you know, for example, I want to live in a house or a unit, what kind of additional support, or is there additional support, or is just to identify this is what I want?
I'm not sure. They're only doing their second cohort. Their first cohort had less than 5 people in it, but we like their approach in not starting with the solution first, which is what the Kapoi'o Kakaako intent was, but to have people solve for themselves individually on how to do that.
Okay.
And I can send you information about the group.
That would be good to see what they're doing. Yeah, especially if there's in Kakaako area, we would like to know what's happening with that.
Yeah, they recently, or 2 months ago, presented at the Ulana Kakaako Neighborhood Board as well. So I do know that they're actively doing their own community outreach too. Great.
Okay, great. So I see maybe this is a question for Howard Hughes and HCDA. Point Panic is such a lovely place, very unique and picturesque. It would be great to have a direct bike walkway connection directly from Ward development area to Point Panic. Has this been considered? Would be something like this that would be possible? Envisioning a Ward area families really enjoying that area at all hours. Have you considered it? Is that in your planning to see how we can make more connections with the Makai?
Is that a question for Director Deepak?
You or it's I think it's near HCDA properties to go across, but also HCDA Deepak.
Yeah, I can take that, Senator. I mean,
okay, Deepak.
We have been in discussion with the city and county because it's a bike lane is part of the city and county program. When I was at HCDA before, we had extensive discussion with the city and county on the Ward Avenue bike route and all. And right now we are talking to, I believe, that whole group, the bike group, on making that connection with the bridge from Howard Hughes property to the harbor and from there to Ala Moana Park. Mm-hmm. And early on, I mean, I think it's been probably about 4 years or so that when city and county was talking about Ward Avenue, one of the suggestions that I had made and I had encouraged city to work with is that take that across Ala Moana Boulevard and Ilalo Street and all the way from Ilalo and connect it to South Street. Mm-hmm. So that now we have a connection, and also going Mauka from South Street. I think it's fairly easy to connect it to Queen's Hospital. So we have connection between medical school and hospital, and then from Ward, it goes into King Street, and from King to University, and that connection to the university. So now we are, you know, we just don't have bike lanes that go from nowhere to nowhere, but from, you know, points like, you know, centers like university to medical school to Queen's Hospital and all. So it's work in progress, I would say that, you know, with the dialogue with the city and county, we will, I can't speak about the time frame because I don't know, but maybe in the next year, 2 years, we'll have that connectivity across Ala Moana Boulevard.
Very good.
Senator, do you want to take the next one? There's a chat question.
Yeah. I think, well, let's see.
Starts off about the email address.
Oh yeah, the email address. The email address is not visible.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering. There's 2 chat boxes. So
I thought it was on the chat box. So can you?
Maybe our staff could, if our staff could post it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll ask our staff to post it.
Thank you.
Yep. I think Howard Hughes is doing a good job, of doing good things, but there are mistakes and problems should be addressed. Like they go back to Kilohanna building fire sprinkler system, inspected, and it shows the system will not work in case of fire, and the homeowners are afraid to live in the building. Again, that should be something that you can address, Kailani, and some of these questions.
Sure, I have no merits of the statement that's posted. So if the individual is willing to email me, I'm happy to follow up with them.
Okay. All right, I don't see anything else. Do you, speaker? Looks like that's it. Okay, so
I think for the residents from Kilohanna who are chatting about the fire inspection report, I think you should ask your management company to provide that information to Howard Hughes.
mm-hmm.
The report that can be made available to Howard Hughes, I think you should probably, make sure that HH receives it.
Yeah, and I think so. Kailani, are you the best person for them to send it to, or is there someone else?
I'm here before everyone this evening. Please send it to me.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I don't see any other questions. Oh wait. I think what they're saying, Kailani, so you may have to do a little more digging and support here, is that they did send that information to the board, but
or to Howard Hughes. This is to
Howard
Hughes.
Howard Hughes. But they were ignored, so maybe you could look into that.
Sure. By all means, let them know who they sent it to, and if it's privileged, legal information. Obviously, I would not know maybe, and I would not be able to speak to it, like Deepak had mentioned, in a public forum like this. So, but thank you. Please reach out to me though, please.
So whoever chatted this, I think it would help if you could just re-chat the name of the Howard Hughes person who was informed about this, so that could help Kailani kind of track this down. If you could chat that to us. But in the meantime, Senator Moriwaki.
Yeah, I think, it's been really great that you could give us the kind of the whole scale of where we are, and that you are moving into affordable housing. As you know, it's always been very important to the community to have parks and affordable housing, a mixed income community. So in terms of your plans forward, it's great that you're doing that, and you're saying you have some of the lower income levels so that we can have a mixed community. So are there any other plans as you look forward of how we may be more, Howard Hughes can be more integrated with the community and being able to bring in various income levels throughout the ward properties?
I would like to go back. Deepak had mentioned there's a established committee for modifying or amending the Malka area rules, and we were generously extended up, being on that committee, and it's through that process, that Deepak explained from a policy position, because currently the reserved housing rules that we are fulfilling as part of our master plan and a part of our Ward Village, approved Ward Village master plan is intended for the gap workforce. And, we all recognize the AMI has moved around quite a bit, like the tables that Deepak had referenced. And so I really credit the director for starting the process, because this is where it needs to come out of the amended MARs, and we're a part of that. And we also, welcome the permitted interaction groups, because director has actually formed 2 in the last month, and both of those, I think, really positive findings will come out of those, and we appreciate the HCDA staff to take that additional workload on, because that's really the means of which we're able to enable HCDA as developers. So thank you, Deepak, but thank you for the question, Senator.
Okay, thank you. So here's the response in the Howard Hughes lawyer and Kilohanna board member. I think you can you see it on the.
I did, so thank you. So if it's with legal counsel, I'm unable to talk in a public forum about it.
But they can contact you and see if you can whatever. Yes. Thank you. And at least better communication would be helpful.
Thank you. Noted.
Deepak, since we do have some time and no questions yet, can you tell us a little bit more of what your plans are on these permitted interaction groups that Kailani had mentioned, so the community knows what HCDA is planning in terms of some of the amendments to the rules and how we can focus in on more affordable housing?
Yes, certainly, Senator. As I said, the focus is going to be on affordable housing and urban environment. If you want to look at some detailed information on that, it's in our draft TOD plan, which was actually prepared in 2015, and we did an EIS on that. That provides, there are two chapters, one on urban design and one on land use, and that talks about, how to improve the walkability, the urban design, the environment, and also on the use. Now, the affordable housing, where we are coming from, starting discussion, is that if you look at the development, recent development in the last few years that has happened along Kapiolani corridor, like Kapiolani Residence, and also the Central, both projects went to HSFDC for 201H exemption. And because of that, they were able to get additional density. And part of that getting additional density, the requirement was that you provide 50% plus one unit in these buildings as affordable housing units. And even within the district, Kamehameha School, when it requested its master plan amendment, did request the ability to use that provision. Because some of the discussion that we are having with the developers that are working with Kamehameha School is that they would like to provide more affordable housing in their development. Part of the challenge, again, is that, given the density of 3.5, the numbers just don't work out. So they need to be able to build more units for the numbers to work. And that's the challenge. And right now, the rule doesn't have any provision to provide that. So we wanted to take a deeper look at that, go through the community process, and also, as I mentioned earlier, if a developer goes to HSFDC and has HSFDC exempt the development from HCDA rules, then HCDA board has limited ability to influence how that project gets implemented. I think from the board perspective and from my perspective too, I think it is better for HCDA to work with the developer itself and provide the entitlement that the developer needs, so that at least we can influence the project. And the reason, and the example I'm giving is that look at the recent affordable housing project that HCDA did with RFP, Nohona Hale. And a lot of people look at that and tell me, when I tell them that it's an affordable housing project, people don't believe. And so it's that kind of ability that we'll have when we can influence projects. So that's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so the difference is that if HCDA handles it and gives exemptions or whatever, that it would lower the price for the developer to be able to work with the lower income or the lower cost of the housing. Is that
lower cost housing? Also, I think it's a multi-pronged approach. And for building I call it mixed income community. Like, for example, the development might have a market tower, And the market tower would be at market prices, and then it would be, reserved housing type of for sale housing. But the developer might also, would be able to go work with HHFDC and getting low-income housing tax credit and build rental projects too. I mean, part of the example is that, we have some of that example, right, with the Kamehameha Schools, 404 Peak, where, their Kamehameha built residence, rental housing, and there's for sale, and across the street at Kehau Lane, there is for sale affordable, for sale market, as well as affordable rental project, and have that kind of combination and that type of project. So that is the major thrust of the amendment that we are looking at. And also, like I mentioned, housekeeping too. I mean, there's some housekeeping things to be done.
So Deepak, you mentioned some of these amendments to the plan that you're looking at, and I guess you're open to all kinds of comments that come in at your town hall meeting or your meeting. Can you put in the chat where they can find the plan and the rules that your amendments that you're working on, the urban design, land use, affordable housing? Is there someplace that is easy for them to access so they can see what you're planning and perhaps come with some?
Yes, Senator. All of the information is on HCDA website, and I can put a link to HCDA
specifically
website.
to the amendment.
Yeah, to the amendment, to all the announcement and everything is there.
Yeah.
The existing plan is there, and let me pull up let me get the. Now it says that the message is going to go to host and panelists, so the public may not be able to see. So maybe someone from your staff can just put it up there. So that's our website. And you can go to the website. It's fairly easy to navigate through our website. And a lot of this information should be on the front page.
So what do they look for? Just plan amendments or something like that?
Yeah, for plan amendments. Yeah, there is, there's a tab for the three development districts. And if they click on Kakaako, it should come up. And if anyone has challenges in getting to the, navigating through the website, let me put up our contact email so they can just email at that contact email, and we'll respond directly to them. And
so that contact email, could you put it up also if they have problems finding it? So then we can post it to everyone.
Here, let me post the contact email.
Thank you.
Let me go back, and since I don't use that email often, let me find out exactly what it is.
So Deepak, I think there's another question, maybe Howard Hughes and HCDA, but how do you ensure that reserve housing for new buildings, the new buildings have a proper budget in place? I guess this is back to Kilohanna, but the reserve owners suffering due to failure in planning the budget for maintenance fees. They're saying the bank would never approve them with their current monthly payments. What kinds of, assurances or any safeguards, I don't know, in terms of when we talked about this before, where they buy a unit and it may be low and they can afford it, but the maintenance fees or planning the reserve that all AOAOs do is not, I guess, explained to them on the front end. Who does that? Whose responsibility is a developer, HCDA, under the reserved housing law? Do you either of you have any comments on that?
I can address some of that. Typically on the maintenance fee, like I said earlier, it's the reserve study that's prepared by management company. that we go by. And HCDA doesn't have the expertise to independently prepare maintenance reserve and all. And even if we did, once the building is built and then the residents move in, the management of the building is under the control of the residents. So even with the best study and all, there's really, I don't know how HCDA or some other government agency could guarantee that maintenance fee is going to remain affordable over the life of the building. So that it's a pretty thorny and challenging topic to discuss through. And I did a little bit of research. There is the website that's publicly available, and it's called highcentral.com. I think it has a listing of condominiums throughout this town. And I went and looked at what the maintenance fees are in various buildings, mostly high rises, mostly buildings that are similar to what is being developed in Kakaako. And even for Kilohanna and certainly for Ulana, the initial number proposed is not an outlier. I ran a very quick and dirty statistical analysis on it to see what the distribution was and those kind of things. So hard to say. There are some old buildings that been around for 40, 50 years. Like, for example, the building that I live in. When you look at per square foot maintenance fee, the maintenance fee in my building is not even 60 cents per square foot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it depends on how well the building is being managed by the AAO. And since, HCDA just doesn't have control on how that happens. So hard to do that.
So here's a suggestion, Deepak, is for you, but could it be a condition built into the shared equity agreements to safeguard when they are priced out, for example? They had a 2-year regulatory term, no longer protected by buyback. So they're indebted to HCDA about $200,000, regardless if it's worth original fair market value. Is there any way that you can see?
Yeah, I think there is probably some misunderstanding of the rules. I had a letter from an owner of Kilohanna, so I did provide response. The way the rule is written is that if the current fair market value is less than what the original purchase price was, then there is no equity sharing requirement.
Right, and these are all for the fair market.
And then also, I think the owners of the reserve housing have an advantage where they don't have the downside risk of losing money, having to pay out of their pocket if the value goes down. But they have the upside options. If the unit appreciates, then the equity is fixed, right? So say, regardless of their, how high their value goes on their unit, they just have to pay a fixed amount to HCDA. So I think it is very advantageous from that side perspective because they have no downside risk, but they have all the upside advantage.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. So yeah, I think it's still the Kilohanna concern that that they're concerned that HCA doesn't have control, but then it's the management of the building. I don't quite understand that question, but the increase was over 50% after less than a year of living in the building. So I think that's where the concern comes.
I don't understand it either, Senator, because I haven't been able to, well, because of the lawsuit, I think there is some restrictions on their area too, that what they can share. So when I have informally inquired about things, no one can actually give me a straight answer on why was the maintenance fee increased by so much. So, and also, I do get comments on parking doesn't meet our rule requirement and all. But then I have responded by saying that, okay, send us the information on a particular parking stall and say that here is the dimension and that dimension is smaller than what is required by the rule. And we'll go out there. I'll go out there with our planner and we will measure it ourselves and verify. And if it doesn't meet, we'll take the necessary steps. And as I understand, previous interim executive director, Garrett Kamemoto, had actually gone out there with staff, planning staff, and measured the parking stall and found out that it meets the requirement. So some of it is just anecdotal, some of it, hard to verify. So that's a challenge too.
So what you're saying, Deepak, is though, if there is concern about the size and it's not meeting a standard that was required by HCDA, they can just email you at that email.
Yeah, and we can email and
be inspected.
And we'll verify. I mean, we take the violation of our rule very seriously, and we follow through.
That's good. Good to know. So, anything else? Any last words you want to say, Deepak or Kaiulani? And then I think we're out of questions. So you did well. Yes.
Can I just add one thing really briefly, that there were some follow-up chats about the fire inspection report, that there's a possibility that it could lead to a $20,000 per unit assessment to remedy. So that's why it's a concern for the residents at Kilohanna.
Yeah, I heard that speaker. I think someone from the the project did call our asset management to express concern. The building did get a building permit, and then it was inspected by City and County of Honolulu and issued the final or the permanent certificate of occupancy. So HCDA doesn't do any of the health and safety checks, right? We don't have the ability, or we don't have the statutory power. But I would be very surprised if City and County Department of Planning and Permitting signed up on the certificate of occupancy knowingly that there was some kind of fire safety deficiency in the building.
Okay. Thank you.
So Deepak, just to follow on to that, so if a building was built without meeting some of these requirements for safety and health safety, so HCDA isn't the one to go to. It would be the city and county or fire department or in permitting. How would say these owners when they see a problem with something like fire safety, meeting fire code, that should be parcel of the building being in condition to be sold, right? I mean, wouldn't that be?
That is correct, Senator. If there is really a fire code deficiency, then the residents would go to the city and county building department, because it is city and county building department that regulates and enforces those building code requirements.
Okay. Well, I think you've given a lot of suggestions and context to
Let me just mention this last piece of chat here. Says that, and that number is correct. The Central Ala Moana project that just opened has a pool and a lot of amenities, has a maintenance fee of 69 cents per square foot, versus Ulana, where there is no swimming pool and fairly limited in amenities, has a maintenance fee of 90 cents per square foot. So I think, you know, I think that's 90 cents to me would be on, when you look at all the data and maintenance fee for this type of buildings, that's on the higher end actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? Deepak, Kailani?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I mean, from my side, I would like to say that I think we have a wonderful community in Kakaako. I think we need to do everything we can in our powers, landowners, us, HCDA and all, to make it even a better community than it already is.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Deepak, for coming with us another night. And Lani, for sharing your time with us. I think it was really helpful, and you know, being able to hear from some of our community members. So I want to thank all of them too joining us. So, Speaker, last words.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank all of the residents who joined us this evening. You know, we wanted, you know, I think for Senator and I, we just want to make sure that residents have an opportunity to ask questions and, you know, hear updates on what's going on in our community. So I want to thank all of you for joining us, and to our panelists as well for being here tonight. Thank you.
Aloha.
Yeah. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Senator. Aloha.
Aloha.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.